don't be a gatekeeper.
Information should be free. I don't believe in the idea of university. And any university information should be freely available on the internet.
Welcome to Market to Me, the podcast that explores how working creatives turn their work into brands, careers, and creative communities. I'm your host, Joe Barron. This is part 2 of my conversation with Ian Paget, the Logo Geek. In part 1, we got into mental health in the creative industry, the rage debate behind fixing brand logos, and why creative block might not actually exist, as well as the power of community. We're picking things up right back where Ian starts talking about an idea for his next book, specifically around an intermediate step in the logo design process that doesn't get talked about enough. Enjoy.
I do this intermediate step now, and that has come from research that I did for this book. And this intermediate step looks different for everyone. So like something that Alan Peters does, he does this brand nouns thing where he gets all these words. Some people do like stylescapes or mood boards, and they present something like that. So there's different things that you can do for this midway point. Since I've been experimenting with it, each time, if I need that intermediate step, it's different exactly what I'm doing. But I found that really interesting that came up. So I might continue to do more research on that and eventually write something on that. I don't know if it would be a book or a blog or what it will be, but it's something I want to share because I haven't seen this discussed before.
Yeah,
and I think this is a really interesting topic, and I find it really interesting that doing research for a book completely changed my approach, and it really threw a curveball because I had a very specific idea of what I was going to write about, but
the story's changed.
Yeah, it's been interesting doing this because I've been thinking about taking this approach for a long time now, because I found when presenting options, and I say this to clients on my initial sales call, like I let them know that I'm presenting one. When I used to present options, there was always, well, not always, like 9 out of 10 times.
They picked the worst one?
No, 9 out of 10 times, I knew there was a clear winner.
Okay, yeah.
And I would usually mention this is the route that I would recommend to go down because of X, Y, and Z. And most of the time, the clients would go ahead with that. But then quite a lot of times, clients like, oh, I like that bit from that one, that bit from that one, and that bit from that one. Can you do a version like that? And we kind of do this Frankenstein version. I'd always try and recommend, like I usually steer them in a way so that we wouldn't totally ruin it. But I found it created problems. But then also I found, without necessarily realizing it, that there's a laziness to it as well, presenting options. Because your mindset becomes, I want the client to pick one rather than what's right for this company. And since I've been presenting one, how I'm thinking is, how should this feel? What's the right feel for this? What's the right idea for this? What's the best execution of this particular idea that I feel is perfect? And I feel that my approach and my thinking has completely changed since doing this, because I'm focused on figuring out a problem to the best of my ability. Since doing this, since presenting one, in a lot of scenarios it's worked and they've gone ahead with what I presented. And because I present a journey, I don't just present a solution, I present a journey and explain why I've gone a certain route, and I do still sometimes show other directions. So in most scenarios, they do agree with me. There's been a couple of scenarios where they're like, oh, we actually really love this version that was included earlier in the presentation. Would you mind just finishing that off as well so that we can see it next to each other?
Got it.
So I've had that a little bit. But since adding in this kind of intermediate stuff, I don't get that now. Okay. Now I get this like buy-in on the idea. And then when I present, they kind of have an idea of what's coming. And I feel that's solved the issue. I really don't see the point in presenting lots of designs anymore like I used to.
Now I'm thinking about it and thinking about the stuff that I've done recently. It's really just been one, because it, like you said, it's that intermediate step, however you do it.
Yeah. However you do that. And I don't think it needs to be the same in every scenario, because like I said, in one of the projects, I presented phrase. In another one, I shared like a sketch of an idea of what I'm thinking.
And then do you also present the whole brand system? Because I think that's kind of part. If I'm presenting one, I'm going to present kind of the whole thing.
Most of my projects, I focus primarily on a logo design. So I do, if you can imagine, like my presentation, I would build up to what I feel is the solution. And then I will show that mocked up on a range of different items. I might show it on like a business card, but I haven't designed a business card. It's just on the back on a mock, just to get them, just to give a feel for how everything might look. And I might add other colors into it just so that so it's not just a logo, but it's also not like a fully beefed out identity. I found as I've done this more and I've got more experience, I feel I have the confidence to present one. I feel that I've nailed the approach to presenting one, and clients trust me. Like when you go to a doctor, you trust the doctor to solve the problem. The clients are hiring me because they don't know anything about design and they want me to solve the problem for them.
And you're the doctor.
So that's what I'm doing, is I'm solving the problem for them. Whether they like it or not is another question, but I'm solving the problem to the best of my ability and explaining why I've solved it. So in most cases, things get signed off. And if there's any feedback or discussion, I consider that all part of the journey. And it's usually all based on what I presented, but with just some minor refinements or feedback.
And do you present mostly virtual or do you present in person as well? I'm sure you.
I don't do anything in person. I do everything from my seat where I'm sat down right now. I like to use Loom.
Loom's
so I like
good.
to
Yes.
Yeah, so I like to prepare slides and then I record my screen. I like to talk over it. I find that I get quite excited about my work, so I feel that actually talking about it is a lot better than adding notes into the presentation, which I used to do. So yeah, that's how I present. I do it over Loom, and then they can watch it in their own free time. And then if they want to have a discussion over Zoom or Google Meets or whatever, then we can do that. But most of the time it's just do a presentation, then I get an email back saying, "Oh, I love it, Ian, let's go ahead." Or can we organize a call for next week or whatever and go through everything? That's how it usually works.
When you get that email from like somebody's viewed your Loom video and it's like, all right, great, but then they don't respond. I was like,
oh my God.
Wait, what? And
I'm like, they hate it.
I'm waiting for the response. I'm like, I'm excited for it.
Yeah. I know we've spoken about mental health, but it's funny. I did a presentation last week. And it was a project that was particularly challenging. And I decided to do something that was really minimal, like really, really, really minimal. But I felt like I've nailed it. When I look at the work I did, I'm like, I nailed it. And I'm still laughing that I got paid the amount I did for drawing such a simple shape. When I sent that over and then I got an email back and I read it really quickly at nighttime. And when I read it, the first time, all I read was, "Can we organize a call for Monday?" And my gut thought was, he hates it. That's all I was thinking the entire time. And then you know what? On the Monday, I reread the email. He actually said, "Thank you for the really great designs." I missed that part when I read it. He just wanted to have a call, and you know what? He signed it with no edits. That doesn't always happen, but when it does, it feels good. To do one presentation, signed off, done. Like the project was done. Was literally all finished off yesterday.
Ian, you're about to pass out, and you just see your email.
Yeah, literally, I opened up my email and I'm like, "Oh man," because I hate that feeling. It's so daunting to present something really simple. And even though I know it's right and I'm really confident in what I've done, I'm also aware that it doesn't look like much. And there's also always this seed of doubt. It's like, oh my God, this guy's paid me enough money to pay for my monthly rent, and I've drawn basically a square. I get it all the time, just this seed of doubt that what I've done isn't good enough, even though that I would strongly argue any comments against it. And I know that he's buying the process, not the design. But yeah, I do have that seed of doubt with a lot of projects. And I hate that feeling that the client's not going to like it. Like if I don't hear back from a client, I just think that they hate it. That's what goes on in my head. Like, client hates it.
My God, Ian, you are just spiraling in your head.
I do. I'm being transparent, but yeah, this is how I think.
I appreciate it.
This is literally in my head.
Everybody wants to. the result to be like, oh, it's fantastic, it's amazing, you're a design goddess, you're fantastic. And in reality, it's like, all right. I think people need to realize that, sometimes you can keep it simple. It's okay.
Also, in scenarios like that, if a client really loves it and there's an ounce of I'm not sure, I'm like, maybe it can be better. And I've had that before as well. Clients loved it. It's like, do you mind leaving it with me for a day? I just want to improve it. Because I want to...
You want to mess it up a little more.
I also, like, if somebody says something that's really good, I want to also feel, yeah, I've nailed it. But I also use that as a measuring rod, because if somebody does say it's good and I get that seed of doubt, it's like, actually, this could be better, then I need to spend a little bit more time getting it perfect. But if they say it's not good and I know it is, I'm going to spend the time to educate them as to why it's good and be pretty firm on why it is. So yeah, it's a roller coaster being a designer, but it's nice when they sign things off and you can put it in a portfolio or in a book or whatever. With logo design in particular, you create something that doesn't exist, create something completely new. And it's so fragile at that point until it's in use that it's very easy to reject something that's really good. Just like the Nike logo, just like the Chase Bank logo. Those two logos wasn't liked when it was first done. And I think great ideas probably get rejected all the time.
Yeah, there's plenty of people are getting rejected all the time, but at least there's also new ideas that don't. This is something I'm actually been curious about. As much as I have an ego, as I think we all should have some sort of ego in the sense that, we're proud of our stuff. There's the thing about awards and design awards, and it's just something that I just do not care for. But yet it seems like to get more of the high ticket clients, and you kind of have to try to win the awards. You could be an award-winning designer, award-winning agency, startup owners want to say, hey, I got a design award-winning guy, but it's kind of like, do you want awards or do you want money and results? It just seems like that's where I'm at. But I do realize that, you kind of have to play the game. But what are your thoughts on...
It's a good question. Something that people need to be aware of is that awards are businesses and they want your money. And yeah, every single awards, every single one of them is a business. So when you get sucked into this, you are giving your money to somebody who will then decide if your work is good enough to be an award, to get an award. So that's issue number one. So don't necessarily get roped into it. Certain awards are prestigious and, you might want to chase for them or whatever, but I don't think it's a big deal personally. I think what's better for independent designers, so like you and me here, we're doing a similar thing business-wise. I think it looks more impressive to be on the jury because I can proudly say that I've been on the jury for a number of different awards.
Fascinating. That makes sense.
I just feel when I say to a client, oh, I judged the awards for this last week.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel that sounds so much more high status than I won a gold award in this.
But how would you present that on a client call? Like, hey, we're talking.
I mean, if it came up in conversation, I'd mention it, but I don't. You don't necessarily need to.
Okay, I just wasn't sure. Yeah, I've been designing logos for a while. I've juried and for this competition, and by the way, it's just like this is going to cost X amount of money. It just feels like it doesn't come off natural.
It's something that you can mention in content, and if like the client asks if you won any awards, you can say like I can say that I've won some awards, and I can give you some tips on how easy it is to win an award. By the way, I'll let you know that tip shortly. But when they ask the question, have I won any awards, I can see, well, actually, I've been on the jury for X, Y, and Z, and it just sounds just as credible as winning. But also, it's been interesting working on the other side of things. Because a lot of awards, which I stress are businesses and they just want your money, they will have different categories that you can enter into. And some of them are more appealing than others. Something like fashion, you're going to get loads of entries because people want their fashion thing to get an award. So that particular category, you might have 100. But then there might be this obscure category for like vehicles or something to do with vehicles. And there might be like 2 or 3. And so which one are you more likely to win? you're more
vehicle.
likely to win the one with only 3 entries, because the odds of winning an award is pretty much 100%. Like if they got first, second, and third, there are 3 entries only. There might even only be 1 entry. Therefore, by default, you win the first prize in that category. And this is exactly how it is. Like, I'm not making this up. I've, been on a jury on a number of things, and you get categories of loads, and then you get categories with others. And I don't mean just like the small rubbish kind of awards that are just started by one person. I
Yeah.
mean, even the bigger ones that are run by bigger companies, it's the same. You have certain categories which are just more attractive, which have hundreds of entries, and then you get these really random obscure things that no one cares about, and they really just get a handful of entries,
Got it.
and you're much more likely to win them. So if you want to win an award, just pick the obscure categories, and then you'll probably win. But just remember that you're basically buying it. You're buying that award. And to be honest, if you really wanted to, you could just set up a website for yourself called the Best Logo Design Award in the world,
Yes.
and just give it to yourself.
It's literally every time I think about this topic, I'm like, what stops me from doing that? Just to
You
appease these
can.
people? Like, it's
No one will know.
no one
You can
cares.
say, "Oh, I won the Best Designer in the World award," and there's this website over here and the other nominees, where you could just
You just
make up an
name.
email address and just tell those people, it's like, you've been nominated for this. Your name's going on this website, and I don't know. This is
It's
what I think of awards. I just hate it. I don't like it. I've
being
been on juries, and I've shared them, and I have friends that have set up their own awards thing that are like Logo Wave.
yeah.
Kyle,
Right.
Kyle created Logo Wave. I know he puts a lot of time and energy into that. Therefore, the money that goes into it, he is using it only on maintaining the actual awards. So there's a few like that which are really good, but they are still businesses at the end of the day.
Yeah, because you still have to. Because there was one. How am I going to phrase it? I guess we'll call it a competition. Yeah, it's technically a competition where you have to pay a membership fee, I guess, like to be part of it, and that's your ticket in. And I remember paying, and I was like, I instantly regretted it, and I started asking a couple people afterwards who's been in, and they're like, yeah, it's not really worth it. And I was like, I knew it, and like prior to that, it seemed like it had a good reputation, so I was going off that, so that was my mistake, and I didn't do anything with it. This is not as useful as a resource that I thought it would be, but yeah, it just felt, didn't feel comfortable with it. Not knocking that there weren't good designs on there or anything. There were, but it wasn't as fruitful and plentiful as I thought it was going to be, where I'm like, okay, great,
A lot of
this
the
is going
time,
to be
it's
helpful.
just it's an ego boost.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have it. We don't, as designers, we work in isolation, and in a lot of times it's nice to have someone say, "Well done, you've done a really good job."
It's true.
It's nice to have that now and again, and I see nothing wrong with it. Like, if you want to enter into it, that's cool, but you just need to be aware that they are businesses. And there are there are companies out there that are almost bordering on scams. He will email businesses and say, "You've won the best logo designer award on your street." And I'm like the only designer on this street. I'm exaggerating what they do.
Of course.
There
And you
are companies
respond,
who will
"Thank you."
almost make stuff up. Yeah, they kind of make stuff up, and it's almost like they make up an award just for you. And then if you want that award, you have to give them like £2,000 or something. And they're not scams because you get the award, but they might as well be a scam. And I think you just have to be conscious of this. So personally, I don't even bother anymore. I don't need the validation. I think I did at one point. I think to some degree, I think that's why I wrote my book. I wanted the validation. I know what I was talking about. But now I don't need it anymore. So I don't need the awards. I have a lot of interest in the awards.
And I think part of it is because you've built your reputation, so people already understand, know who you are.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I built the reputation, therefore I don't need it. I do feel that with designers, a lot of it is just chasing a pat on the back and someone is, kind of proving that you know what you're doing. But as designers, my advice would be, if you can, be on the jury instead. You can do that in a lot of occasions by just asking. Like, what's the worst that can happen? They say no. But if they say yes, then brilliant.
That's fantastic. I never even thought about the jury part because it's just, it makes you more credible, I feel like. I wanna share a couple
Okay.
logos with you. Some you may know, some you may not.
Okay.
I want your opinion on your thoughts on, not breaking it down, but what makes it like, what do you see? What makes it
Yeah,
such a good
sure.
solid point? Like,
It's interesting because I know you mentioned about potential things that I want to work on. I keep thinking about creating some kind of evaluation type system for design,
that would be,
because I think there should be a framework in which you can analyze designs.
I think there should be a certain checklist where if it hits some kind of these marks, you kind of in pretty good range. But
Yeah,
then
I'm generally very analytical anyway with design, especially lately. Um, and I present quite analytically as well.
I'm just going to go through these. I want your opinion on why they're so strong, or not. I don't want you to really deconstruct it. It's not like we said earlier
Yeah,
about
sure,
fixing.
sure. So there are certain traits that make a good logo. Simple. When I say simple, I don't mean I don't mean minimal, but simple meaning kind of one core idea that you could kind of quickly sketch down if needed.
Yes.
And I can see all of these examples here kind of fall into that. You want something that's memorable and distinct. And this, what's on the screen now, is very memorable and distinct.
Yes.
It's literally a mouthful, tongue
Absolutely.
sticking out of it. It's very memorable. Want to create something that's versatile. And versatile meaning that you can scale it up, small, big. All of these examples here, I can actually see really tiny little versions of all of them on the screen
Yeah, I
right
see the
now.
side. Yeah.
And they're all shrunk down to about this sort of size, and I can clearly read them and see them. So versatility in this aspect is really important. So these are, three things I've said so far. And timeless is something that comes up a lot, but it's not one that I necessarily always recommend or really push, because it depends on the context. It's great to have a timeless logo, but what if you're creating a logo for a concert? You don't need to be timeless. You can create something very much of the moment.
Absolutely.
So logo
And there's
doesn't
plenty
need
of
to be
those.
timeless.
There's plenty.
So this one's interesting. So with logo design, a lot of what you're doing is working with illusions. And there is a principle in Gestalt theory where our brains like to fill in the missing gaps. So if you was to have a circle, and I think that's what I did in my book, I did a circle.
Yeah,
and
I think
cut
that was
out
it.
chunks to explain it. Is that our brains kind of fill in the gaps, and this is all part of Gestalt theory. And this logo that's on the screen now, there's a lot of the bear missing. So the whole part between his ears and over here and his back, there's no line there, but our brain fills in the gaps. This is probably the best example of Gestalt theory in logo
absolutely.
design, but it's using very simple shapes. So you can see on the left, really, at least on where I'm looking anyway, there's a
It's on my
really
left too.
tiny version of it, and it's clear and easy to read at that size. And it's simple, memorable, timeless, which is exactly what you want from a logo design.
And, even I would argue this one, it's for Unsplash, a camera.
Yeah, simple, memorable, timeless. Premier League logo. I really like this as an example for what can be done when you invert it. And actually, I think there might be a newer version of this.
I thought I got the newer
out there.
version. I apologize to the football fans.
So with this particular logo, there needs to be two versions. There's a positive and a negative version. I really like this as an example of how you need to slightly adjust the logo when it's used on a black background. And this is a really nice example. And I think there's it looks exactly the same as this, by the way. But I think I recall this being a problem because the Premier League is so big, people keep using this version in white. and it doesn't look right because it's like the negative. There's a separate design for the negative version. So I'm pretty sure that they come up with a fix so that it would always work. I might be wrong. I might be remembering wrong, but I'm pretty sure that they come up with a solution for it. Everyone kept taking the same file.
So they share this version. This version is usually,
So that's
it's terrible.
If you took the positive version and inverted that directly, then it looks like this, which looks wrong. So there is actually a separate version for white, but I'm pretty sure I can't remember. I might be remembering.
No. It's this one. It should be this one.
Yes, correct. But I'm pretty sure that they did a version where, like if you can imagine that the Premier League is so big, having a positive and negative version, because people aren't trained in design, a lot of people would take this version or the other version and use it incorrectly. I'm pretty sure that they came up with a solution for it. They did. So there's a version where it has so the black version has a white stroke around it. So there isn't a version this version doesn't exist anymore. They kind of merged it into one. So the white and the black is all part of the same file, which I found really interesting. And people wouldn't notice that unless you are nerdy enough as me to notice these little things.
I think people don't really realize that when you're designing, you have to consider both light colors and dark colors.
Yeah. But I found it interesting with this particular project that they eventually needed to create one file that worked in all scenarios. So it has the positive and the negative within it. It's got both the black and the white in the actual file. Yeah, so see the one on the green background? This has both the positive and the negative in it as well.
Yes.
It has the white and the black.
It's combined, yeah.
But originally when they released this logo, there was a separate black version and a separate white version. But like I've already said, one of the issues that kept happening because of the scale of the company, because it's so big, people, whether it's people in-house, fans or whatever, they would take the positive version and just turn it to white.
Yeah.
But because it kept creating issues, they then created a new version, which is the version on the green background, which has the positive and the negative within one file. So it's got the white and the black all together.
And
which is specifically designed to solve that issue of people taking the wrong.
Yeah, and I've worked in print, so I've worked on the production side. So I've seen this happen where if they don't give you the proper brand assets, then you get the terrible reverse version on the dark color. And I don't think people understand that. It feels like in a way when you create the logo, obviously present it, but if you're providing a brand guideline, it probably stops at the marketing team. Or even if it's a small mom and pop, small business, if it's a small business, they might need shirts printed or business cards or whatever. And if it's not properly provided, the people who are in charge of whatever department might not think that I need to follow the guidelines, even though they have it. And it's kind of like an internal issue where they just need to be provided that. And either people forget about it because they're too busy working on their stuff and they're not part of design and marketing. It's like, why would you read, 40 pages, or maybe you did less, or maybe you did more on like a design? A lot of people don't seem to either they don't care or they don't know about it or don't know that they need to look into it. And it's like they have to be reminded.
I don't think people see it as an issue. Like they take that Premier League logo, the black version, make it white. They don't see it's wrong. They don't physically know that it's wrong. They think that they've done it right. It's not important to them. Done. When I used to work full time for a company, I remember one of the account managers, they shared something that the client sent over, and I just looked over from a distance and I'm like, oh dear God, that kerning is awful. That was my first response. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about here. And I'm like, the space in between the letters is a mess. And I sat down and explained it to them, and they're like, I don't see what you're talking about here. And they couldn't see. It was awful. It was such a mess. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to fix that before we do anything with it. But yeah, really confused them. Like they really couldn't see that there was anything wrong with this thing that the client sent over. And I think that's the exact scenarios. People don't know, like, even if they did read the brand guidelines, they just don't know that what they did is wrong and looks bad.
You're right, because even if you did it and you show say you put an X on, this is not how you do it. You don't add a drop shadow. You don't add different colors. It's only these colors. It's only falls to the people who, I guess, were in charge, or the certain departments that are responsible for it, where it really matters. Like, I know when I've done a lot of design work for Harley Davidson, and I've done a lot, pretty much apparel design, and I need to know that they have their guidelines, and I have to make sure I hit everything out. And if I'm art directing some other designers on, like, hey, here's my concepts of what I want you to do, or if I'm doing it for myself, or I'm designing it, I'm like, okay, I need to make sure it has this is X, Y, and Z. I got to follow it, and I can't, because they're going to approve it before anything gets printed. So it's like, some companies, you have the luxury of getting the approval first on, whatever design. Some, they think you just run ahead and print it and think, like, you're good, man. I think it's great. And it's like, that is so wrong. And so I think part of it is trying to be able to educate them and let the people know, when you're like, hey, at the end of the day, this logo must be like this, or follow these guidelines, you'll be okay, and everything else.
It's why I think the Premier League logo is a really good case study for this, because they had this issue, and rather than trying to educate everyone, they solved it with a design change.
Yeah, and sometimes it's needed.
Like, when you think of when you think about creating a logo, like, I normally think about creating, creating like full color versions, black, white, create like a kit of files. And I find that a really interesting scenario, that they created a single file so anyone can take it, just the one file. There's no positive, negative version, there's just one. They've solved that issue with a physical design change. So rather than trying to educate everyone, rather than trying to force everyone to read design guidelines or have some role that's responsible for checking everything, they've just adjusted this file. Done. It's fixed the issue. Globally, anyone that takes the logo from anyone takes the original source files, it will work on a black background, white background, colored background, anything, and there won't be this issue. And I think that it shows that it's our responsibility as designers to make it easy for everyone to use a logo, and not force them to learn about design or read design guidelines, all these sort of things that we've just been talking about.
And
we
then,
should make it really easy as possible for
and it goes back
people
to
use a logo.
It goes back to simplicity, keeping it simple. Just, that's part of making it easy for them.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
keep it simple for them. That's all.
Exactly. I mean, it's fair to say that is the Premier League logo good when it needs multiple variants to work, when the other logos that you shared doesn't have that constraint?
I think that's it's a debate, but it's also the style. So I think that's part of it. And let's see why this works. Can you explain?
But yes, this is one that I created.
You did?
Actually, interestingly, this is one of the scenarios where I presented a different direction. And this was one of the other routes that I explored. And we decided to focus on this. So this is a project for, it was actually with Open University, which is really cool. And they were creating this team this sort of network, rather, of people who are doing research and collecting data around biosensing equipment. So biosensors are used heavily in, like, the Apple Watch, in these Fitbit things, but people are more and more wearing sensors day to day. And up until now, there's no organization or group who are collecting this human driven data. So with this particular project, bearing in mind it's global, I wanted to create a symbol that felt like a sensor, but also had this human element to it. And you can see in the thicker part at the bottom, that is a human, but the rest of it looks like a sensor. So it's almost like collecting data on the human. And
Yeah,
then
no.
it's a long wordy name. I don't hate designing logos that are long names, but they're always a little bit more challenging.
Hmm.
So if you was to type out European wearables and biosensing network, they don't line up like that. I had to do a lot of modifications to some of the letters to actually make it line up in the way that it is.
Now I'm just curious.
I think I
Would an acronym have helped out with that?
No, because I mean, what does EWBN mean? It doesn't mean anything, and nobody calls it that either. I think it's different with things like the BBC because that's what they are known as. It's the same with Federal Express. Everyone was calling them FedEx, therefore they rebranded to FedEx because that's what everyone was calling them. Well, with this network, I mean, at this point in time, at the point in time of doing this, it was a new thing, and using an acronym is just it doesn't make like I really don't like acronyms. I really hate them. Unless the company's known as that, it doesn't make sense to use it. And I'll give you an example. Say if you're like Bob's Homemade Cookies, that's your company's names or your company name. BHC, we are BHC. If you did that, everyone's like, well, what's that? But if you kept Bob's Homemade Cookies, it's Bob's Homemade Cookies and they're good. You know what it is when you hear it. But BHC is like, what the hell's BHC? It doesn't mean anything. But then also there's a risk as well. Like any company that was called ISIS before the terrorist organization came out, they obviously needed to rebrand because when they set up their business, ISIS didn't mean anything. They could call their business that, but then a terrorist organization took that particular acronym. Therefore, any equity that they built up in their business, and it could have been for 20 years, they can't use that anymore. They don't want any association with that. So they're having to rename. I think ideally in an ideal world, this company would just have a better name.
And even for this, I was a child of the actual wrestling organization of WWF.
Yes.
So I knew this. So when they
Yes.
changed to this, I mean, it's great. I mean, I do love the image of the two pandas with one with the steel chair, like they're wrestling, because people didn't want to let go of the actual WWF being the wrestling company. But
yeah, same thing. WWF.
Yeah.
I think of wrestling when I hear that.
But it's the World Foundation again.
And you don't even know what it is. You don't even know what the name is.
I thought
I don't mean
it's
that as
the
a
F.
bad thing.
No.
I mean, because they use WWF,
No, yeah.
we don't know what the F is.
It's the World Wildlife Fund for Nature. Yeah, it was the fund. It threw me off. I couldn't remember. Yeah, exactly.
It's fine. Sorry, I wasn't mocking you with
no,
that.
No.
Because
I
they're
just couldn't
using an
remember.
acronym, it's vague as to what it actually is. And that's one of the reasons why I hate it. So it didn't have the option to rename this particular company. But if it was entirely down to me, I would rename the network. Although to be fair, like generally with science type companies,
they're fairly long.
It's okay, or it's going to be difficult to come up with something different for biosensing.
Which is why I think having the icon, your little logo mark works best, because now it gets the point across, and you can see it once, especially after you explain it to them if they don't know about it already. It's just like, oh, there it is.
Like visually, I like to think that symbol, it looks like a sensor, at least to me.
I think it works for the company. Like even have a conversation. Evidence is it's clear what it's for. See the plant, the tree, kind of leaning into that, and then the book evidence. Just my assumption off it, not even reading the case study, or not reading your actual information. I get what it's supposed to be. The company it's supposed to be.
So with this particular example, again, this is another one that I worked on. This was with Cambridge University. So they have a division which is supporting or creating or pulling together all the evidence for conservation within the UK. I wanted to come up with a symbol for this, and it's a challenge because when you think of biodiversity, there's like trees, animals, nature. There's a lot of things, and you could so easily come up with a logo that kind of maybe something like the Unilever logo where it has a little bit of everything in it. But I wanted to create something that was simple, versatile, distinct, and so on. And that's when I started to work on this idea that's here, where it initially looks like a book, but then in the negative space, you've got like the tree of life. It also looks like a small plant growing. It also looks like a larger tree growing. It also looks like farmland. It also looks like animals running across the landscape, but also fish in the sea.
Got it.
There's a lot that you can see
And
within
unpacked,
the
yeah.
symbol. So it's very simple, but it's a very simple symbol that works for everything. And then to go along with this, just a very simple conservation evidence word mark, because it's something I want them to look credible and serious and trustworthy. I feel it works really nicely on their website and in their marketing materials.
It's a nice looking logo. I think it's, that's one that you're certainly proud of, and it's a nice portfolio piece.
Yeah, but also with that one, there's a little bit of a story to it as well. Yeah, so I'm self-taught, and I'm primarily self-taught anyway. I didn't go to university, and I remember when I was about 16, no, probably 17, I got careers advice at my college, and I expressed an interest in design. And I was told by the careers advisor that I wouldn't be able to do that unless I went to university. And I
Why is
find it.
that? Were you just were the grades not there? You seem like
No, I mean I mean, based on what she said, in order to be a graphic designer, you need to go to university and learn how to do it.
okay.
Yeah, at that point, I didn't know any of the software. I don't know. I never even used a Mac at that point. Everything I'd done was pretty much by hand, so I had no experience. So to get a job in design, her opinion at that point was that you have to go to university to learn that before you can get a job, which is a fair comment, really. But I find it fascinating to think that I never did that. I never took that route. And I eventually got hired by Cambridge University, Imperial College London, Open University. I've been hired by loads of different universities who have courses on design. So they have people that they taught, but they hired me, the guy that taught himself, instead. I find that really funny. But then also, so this particular project, at least the initial conversation I had with Cambridge University is I'd just had it in my notice and decided I was going to go full time. So because I knew that I was going to be going full time, I redesigned my website. I'd done loads of updates to it, loads of tweaks, and created like a new proposal document and everything. And it was really cool that just after going full time and working for myself, that one of the first projects that I got was what I consider a big company. So, a big national institution that everyone knows. And it just felt good, not only get an email, like an email came in and I genuinely couldn't believe it. And I organized a call with them because I had the time to now.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have the time before. And yeah, it just kind of came at the right time. And it felt really good getting them calling me and booking in I did my sales pitch. And they decided that they wanted to go ahead. And it kind of blew my mind that not only did I attract them, bearing in mind this is something that just started off as a hobby, didn't really know what I'm doing at the beginning, and kind of taught myself different things. Kind of blown my mind that this hobby eventually attracted somebody from Cambridge University to get in touch. And bearing in mind I had social anxiety, so struggled on the phone, that I also sold this project on a phone call. And it just felt really good. It was nice to get the project. There's 2 projects I've done with them. There was that one that you just said, the conservation evidence, was actually the second project I did with them. Separate team, actually. There's a separate team that found me separately, which is
they found you separately. They didn't even recommend you.
Yeah. They didn't know that I was already a preferred partner for them. It was a separate team who did their research and found me. Which is pretty cool. But yeah, there was a Cambridge Centre for Cambridge AI in Medicine was the first one that I did with them. I just find it wild being told it can't work. I can't work as a designer because I have to go to university. Didn't go to university and then get hired by a university to do a project. It's kind of like, yeah, suck on that, careers advisor. Also, I think it's nice for anyone that's young to hear that. Like if you're 16, you've got no experience in design, you can do it without having to go to university. I'm completely self-taught,
Well,
or
and
rather, I learned on the job.
well, you brought up an interesting topic of being self-taught, and everything is a little different. So, when you think AI, do you think artificial intelligence, or you think Adobe Illustrator?
When you say AI now, I think artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's great to hear that you could be self-taught, but it just seems like it's could be a little more complicated. I think you still probably could still do it, but it just seems like I feel like you need to add more tools to that
I don't know. I think there's different opportunities now. I did an interview with Steph Hammerlink, and I did a session with him
Mhm.
within More Creative Academy as
Yeah.
well, because he's got obsessed with mascots, and he's been doing some really cool stuff with AI. And I know that 16-year-old me would have watched that and started learning these tools,
Okay, that's
and
fair.
probably going down a rabbit hole of so when I started doing logo designs, I was doing it for like bands on MySpace. Like this is years ago now, like 20
Yeah,
years ago.
MySpace.
This is pre like Facebook didn't exist. I set up a little company called Hysteria Design, and I went on MySpace and I'd find bands and I'd ask them, can I do a logo and can I do like an album cover? I did it all for free. But anyway, I know that 16-year-old me would think, oh, I'm going to do a mascot and start approaching people I know and go, can I make a mascot for you just for fun? And I think I would go down that rabbit hole. And that's an opportunity that didn't exist when I started out. To be fair, it didn't even exist a year or two ago. So I think, well, AI has potentially taken, not potentially, it definitely has taken the opportunities that I had when I started out. I think it's also creating new ones
Okay.
that didn't exist. And mascot design is one thing. How you can create like design almost like plasticine looking characters and then animate them with a prompt. That's wild. Like that's it blows me away. And I know that 16-year-old me with endless time, I would sit down and learn the hell out of that. And I know if I did exactly the same social media type stuff that I did there and I started sharing, posting on Facebook, oh, I found this really cool tool, it can do this,
Hmm.
and sharing it in the same way, it's an opportunity that's there for somebody. And if you was to get obsessed with mascot design in a similar way that Steph is, I believe that there's the opportunity for the mascot geek to come into this world and do exactly the same as what I did. It's just with something different.
Yeah, I think with him particularly, it's more 3D mascots and and instead of sketching it out and doing the 3D more of a traditional approach, it's kind of using an AI approach to create the
But he
fandom
has
mascot.
been drawing some by hand. He's done some with his kid. Like his kid's drawn the character,
Hmm.
and then he's based the actual like he's created a 3D mascot design using AI based on that, and then that being animated. But with all the tools available, you can do any style. It could be like Wallace and Gromit kind of Aardman animation style. It could be the you know the snowman animation. You could probably do this style.
Yeah,
You could do any style and just animate it in whatever way you want, and it's very easy to do.
but
Although there's a lot of negativity around it. I know like I mean, this is a whole different debate. Coca-Cola did an ad that was
yes,
all AI,
it's
and then
second year in a row,
Apple at the
and
same
yeah,
time. Yeah, so yes, yeah,
they're
Apple
both
at the same time
they're both
have.
that. Apple is more about the craft. That's the argument. And I remember sharing something on YouTube, and I was like, "Hey, I was presenting that in 2026, this year, to separate yourself from AI, you'd be focusing more on the craft." And I got a comment like, "Sorry, buddy, never gonna happen. No one's gonna care about the craft. It's gonna be all AI in a couple of years." And I'm like, "In a couple of years, that may be true, but I'm talking about right now." I'm talking about the current state to kind of separate yourself before, for those of you if you don't use those tools yet, it kind of helps you separate yourself to at least get yourself in a position where people can come to you, whether for both craft and if you implement AI as well or not, whatever. It really depends. But that's what I'm thinking about. And so brand mascot doing that, he does it that way. It's not all. I'm not gonna say it's all AI, but that's what he does. And there's other ways of doing it because you can still create the mascot without same traditional way, like you build in a logo. You just got to, you're thinking 3D, and if you're gonna like fledge out an actual character for say like something like Sesame Street or something where you're doing 3D for that, or it was Michelin Man or whatever. There's a three-dimensional component to it. If you're not just using it just as an image, as a static image, even the Premier League lion, if they decided to fledge it out into an actual mascot, because technically it sort of is. It's kind of the mascot, it's a logo, but that's kind of one aspect of
Yeah,
a logo. There's different eye mark, word
bring
mark.
that to life. I think it would be a mistake for them to do it in that way. I just mean like 16-year-old
Oh no,
me
when you're learning, I think
getting
it's
into. I think there's opportunities there that didn't exist
yes.
when I was younger.
I think if you're learning, everybody's it's a good way. I've seen people who started printing and started their own little clothing line, and it was just because they started playing around with Photoshop or Illustrator, and then they eventually you just start.
Had a science T-shirt company for a while.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, it's funny. I've had so many kind of business ideas lingering, but Logo Geek was the one that kind of stuck. But yeah, I had read Marty Niemeyer's books on branding, and I remember reading Zag. I read Zag when I was on holiday, kind of led on the beach reading Zag, and it's got this oneliness statement in it where you're the only blank who does blank. I can't remember what the exact sentence is, but I remember having this idea of wanting to do T-shirt designs, and I came up with the only T-shirt design company who educated its wearers about science, and that was its oneliness statement. So I did these T-shirt designs, but then I included a collectible card that taught you about the thing on the T-shirt. So, for example, you could have a T-shirt design on like the Higgs boson, or like the Large Hadron Collider. And then you do a little fact card that explains what that thing is. So the idea is that you buy the T-shirt, you learn about the thing that you're wearing, and then you can go around telling people about it. I thought that was a cool idea. I still think it's a cool idea.
I personally think it's a cool idea. And it's kind of like one of those things where my son's love space, love science. Now it's robotics. And I think it's probably part of why Mega Man comes into play, because it's a robot.
Sense.
So, but I mean, again, we're reading National Geographic for kids books on science or in schools about robotics.
My
and I'm
daughter's since
it's the driest books.
She's had science books since she was
yeah. And I remember him being like the only like 2-year-old that knows about the solar system and the dwarf planets. And now I'm invested in I mean, I've always liked space, but like now I'm like more invested to learn everything.
I've read whole encyclopedias on this stuff. Remember, I bought an encyclopedia about space and I read the whole thing front to back.
For the younger listeners, an encyclopedia was a book filled with a lot of information.
You could still buy them. It was like this thick.
Yes, and sometimes they came in volumes.
Looking if I got it to hand. No, it's not here. It's downstairs, but it's about this thick. I read the whole thing front to back, and I follow everything. Like I'm really there's a couple of things I have a strong interest in, and science is one of them.
Now,
so I've read.
Now, aside from is that also a reason why you have the post in the background? Obviously, it's.
Yes, it is. I mean, it's an Aaron Draplin print, but yes, it's because I have a genuine fascination with the moon landings and the NASA space missions and all this sort of stuff. So I have a great photo with Buzz Aldrin.
Really, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool to meet him.
How'd you meet him? I'm just.
So I go to like Comic-Con and signing events, like Comic-Con kind of thing. And there was one called Autographica, and they had Buzz Aldrin there.
Interesting. I would have never thought he would have been at a Comic-Con event. I would have figured that he.
It wasn't Comic-Con specifically. It was Autographica, which is more. It's like in a fancy hotel. It's a smaller thing,
but just more for like celebrities, more autographs and signings. Well, that's what it is.
Usually at that one, they do have space guests.
Okay.
And he probably made a lot of money.
Probably, I would imagine.
I mean, just to get, so this is totally off topic from the design stuff, but if you can imagine, most, at least at that time, most guests when you go to an event are like £15.
Oh, he's probably a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah. So Buzz Aldrin, he did a photo shoot, and that was like £60 a ticket, which wasn't too bad. So you got to, stand next to him, click, take a picture, and then they print it out. But the autographs, he is one of the only people that I've met that has pricing brackets for different things. So he probably charges more now, but he has like a fee for, say if it's a picture,
Mm-hmm.
it's like £600 to sign a picture.
Okay.
If it's a book, the inside of a book, it was cheaper. It was like £400. But if you came in there with a picture of Neil Armstrong and Michael Collins,
Yeah, he wouldn't sign
and
it.
he was the only one that hadn't signed it, he charges a completion fee, and it's an enormous amount of money.
Jesus
It's
Christ.
because the value of that picture
Oh,
goes
yeah.
from being a couple of grand to being
Yes.
like
No,
10,000 plus. So he takes his share.
Of course.
So say like it's £1,000. Say I can't remember exactly what it
Whatever
was,
it
but it was
was,
something
yeah.
like £1,000. This completion fee. But I know it's so rare to get a picture of all three. Somebody came into that event with the two, and one of the people that had a store said, "Do not leave this building without getting that signed. Don't worry about the price because the value of that thing will go up so high having all three." But he also he considers Michael Collins and him being a completion fee as well because Neil Armstrong's died.
Yeah.
So he factors that in as well. And he probably charges more than that now, but he's the only guest I've ever met that A, charges it that much, and B, charges a completion fee. But
I mean,
you're never going to get first man, second man on the moon. I mean, he's the first man that walked in space, and it messed up his mental health after that was horrendous. His mum couldn't cope with the fame. She committed suicide. Like, it's pretty tragic. So I don't blame him profiting from it. And no one else is going to be the first man on the moon.
Yeah, when you make human history and you're moonwalking, you deserve a piece of the pie.
You deserve it, and people will pay it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I had the money spare, then I would have got his autograph, and I wouldn't care about how much it costs. Like I'm a massive Star Wars fan, and Star Wars Celebration, which is this big annual event, came to London, and Mark Hamill, who's Luke Skywalker, the main character in this film that I absolutely love.
In the original films, he wasn't the main character.
Yeah, the original film. And this was during the time while he was still filming the new films. So this is where he looked exactly the same as what he does, same length hair as in the newer films. As soon as that went on sale, I just booked it, whatever the price was. I didn't care about the price. I wanted to meet him.
And how was he?
He was like the best guest I've ever met. He I mean, you have to remember that they're people at the end of the day.
Of course.
And they're going to get pretty tired because they're signing autographs all day.
Yeah.
And they're just stood there. But I stood next to him, put my arm around him for the picture. And he put his hand in my jacket pocket, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he stole my phone, and he made me laugh. Like the expression on my face in the photo was like, what are you, like laughing nervously.
Yeah.
But yeah, he stole my phone, and then we chatted for a little bit. He made a bit of a joke out of it, and yeah, made it really fun. It's like one of the best. I go to a lot of these events, and he made it worth it. That was expensive. That was like a £500 photo shoot. My argument was it's Luke Skywalker. I remember my sister. I told her, "Oh my god, Celebration is coming to London. I booked this ticket." But as soon as it came out, I booked it. I didn't even think about if I could afford it. I just booked for it.
You have a memorable story. Like he took your phone and that was it.
Well, I remember her saying, "Oh my god, Ian, you spent so much money on that," and I'm like, "Haley, it's Luke Skywalker. There's only one Luke Skywalker. When else are you going to have the opportunity to meet him? It's like a hero, I don't care about how much it costs. I really want to have a photo with him." And she came back half an hour later going, "I'm coming with you." Because it was while he was in the films as well.
That means he had the beard too.
Yeah, he had the long hair and everything. It was while he was filming.
Yeah,
This is while he was filming the new films. So it was while he looks like he does in the Star Wars films. Because I've met some guests like 20 years on, and they don't look like they did in the thing anymore. And it's like, cool, I met them from that. But there's something different about meeting them while they have their long hair, or how they look in the film. It's just it's completely different. But yeah, that was really cool. and it was worth the money.
But yeah, that's always fun. Yeah, no, every time I see these celebrities at New York Comic Con, or I'm just like, I'll just see them glance. I'll wait till they walk by. And just, just, I don't know.
Yeah, I've done that, but there's something different about
No,
meeting
no,
them.
of
And
course, Luke,
I
yeah,
like to get like posters signed
absolutely.
or
Oh, so
pictures
do you
signed.
have a picture framed of you
Um,
and Mark
I
Hamill?
I probably should get it framed. Actually, it's like in a folder down there somewhere.
Just collecting dust.
Pretty much. Yeah, I've got another one of my favorite guests that I met was Stan Lee. So great meeting Stan Lee, and I've got it's not an original first edition Spider-Man. It's not an original one, but it's a recreated one, and
Hmm.
I've got him to sign it.
But
And
you're still a
it's
true
cool.
believer.
Oh, I mean, Stan Lee is again another person. I mean, bearing in mind when I met him, he was like 92. I find it unbelievable that at 92 you could be there signing autographs all day, and he'd be like Excelsior and all this sort of stuff. Like he really he loved meeting his fans, and how he is in like documentaries. And I don't know if you're a Marvel fan, but I've been a Marvel fan forever, and I've seen these documentaries and these stories of learning how to draw comic books and all this sort of stuff, and exactly how he is in that. He's like that in real life, and I find it amazing that at 92 he's there signing autographs and standing up on stage and doing this
Yeah,
Excelsior
I have it
thing.
too.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, how you imagine he is, that's exactly how he was. People always say don't meet your heroes, and I've met some actors and they haven't been very nice or not how you would expect them to be. But Stan Lee is.
What you see.
I've actually met him twice, and both times he was, a real legend. Really nice to meet him.
Have you ever seen the
Yeah, I got
movie
from.
Mallrats?
I haven't. What's that?
So it's a Kevin Smith film,
Okay.
but so it's just the one character just is a comic book obsessed character, and some sort of conflict where he breaks up with his girlfriend or whatever, and they use Stan Lee because Stan Lee's there for a sign in. They try to use him to wants to show him the way of like, hey, you have a good thing with this girl. Like he's so obsessed with like his like, is the thing, rock everywhere? Can, Mr. Fantastic really stretch everything? Like so sex obsessed. There's a line where Stanley's like, I think you gotta come checked out. Or something like that. Like this is not normal for him to be thinking like that. It's a silly comedy, and
I haven't seen it, but I'll have to check it out.
it doesn't age well. So it definitely appeals to the 16-year-old me who might have seen it when it came out years ago.
I'm always happy to watch these things.
That just goes to show, I think it's a legacy, leaving a legacy. And at the end of the day, you're, a business, your business, you're providing a service to another business and like showing and kind of leaving a mark,
Yeah.
which is, a legacy, whether it lives forever or not, or it gets modernized later on down the road. It's kind of, you're trying to at least start that, brand positioning for that company where it's like, hey, this is what I can provide for you. And I'm the expert, and this is what you need. And you're in good hands. And from there,
Yeah.
people will
Yeah.
always remember you good things, because even, I know Coca-Cola did the AI thing, but prior to that, everyone loved those Christmas commercials with the Coca-Cola polar bear and everything. Like there's a bit of nostalgia. I think now that I think about it, the nostalgia part is probably what frustrated everybody, but there's
Yeah.
other issues, but
Yeah.
whatever. But it's kind of like, there's a lasting legacy. And I think from whether you're meeting Luke Skywalker to building a new logo for a different department for a university, it's leaving a mark. And I think that's what you do
Yeah.
and we do. And I think it's
Yeah.
important.
I think just to briefly expand on that. One of the reasons why I like to do things like a podcast and writing and doing things like this is because
You get to talk to cool people like me.
yeah. But I wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't for designers of the past and individuals who gave their time. People have spent their life learning things, and they've spent the time to document it and pass it on, or they've they've learned something and they've given their time to me to learn from there. And I wouldn't be doing anything I'm doing now if it wasn't for those people that are, either, gave their time freely, or those design legends that decided to share what they learned in a book and kind of give that information away for free. And I kind of want to carry on that legacy, because there's a lot of stuff that I'm learning now which Paul Rand wouldn't have any experience. And it's the same with you, both of us here. There's stuff happening now, or at least in our lifetime, that physically didn't exist when Paul Rand was around. So we need to document that and pass that on so that the next generation that starts getting into design can pick it up and consume it in whatever format that is. And I think it's really important as designers, at least it's important for me, that I pass that information on that I'm learning, and because I know that it will help the next generation of me that wants to get into this but can't afford to go to university, or isn't in a position to go to university. And I think it's really important, and I want to continue to do that in whatever way I can. And that's why I do podcasts, is why I write, is why I do a lot of what I do. And actually thinking about it now, I need to start my next book project because of this. I need to pass on like the stuff that I'm talking about here with the intermediate step. I've not read any of that stuff in a book. This has come from my own research.
Yeah.
And I need to document it and share it on. And talk about it more so that the next generation of people can apply that to their work.
Don't be a gatekeeper.
Information should be free. I don't believe in the idea of university. And any university information should be freely available on the internet.
We all need to learn, right? I mean, that's part of the growing as
all
a person.
Information should be free. Like I don't believe in the idea of gatekeeping stuff. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Ian, it's been a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
We had 3.5 hours.
No,
it's been good. It's been great. So thank you.
Thank you. So let's wrap it up with where can everyone find you? How can they reach you?
Okay, so pretty much everywhere I'm at Logo Geek. In terms of posting, I'm not as active on socials as I used to be, but I do, I am on like Facebook, X, and I'm pretty much on everything. But I think if you wanted to like physically just have a conversation, just send me an email. My website is logogeek.uk, or find me on any of the socials.
And that's another episode of Market to Me. You can find me, Joe Barron, at brandonbarron.com, and I'll catch you later. Goodbye, everybody.